In the quaint, suburban town of Maplewood, nestled among rows of picturesque houses and manicured lawns, the Green family lived a life of routine and comfort. 16-year-old Sarah Green, the only child of her loving parents, enjoyed the undivided attention and affection that came with her status. One night, under the tranquil spell of a moonlit sky, Sarah went to bed after a typical day, filled with the mundane activities of teenage life. However, the calm of the night was shattered when she awoke in the wee hours to a chilling sight. Sitting at the edge of her bed was a little boy, around 6 years old, staring at her with piercing, unnaturally bright blue eyes. His clothes were outdated, like something out of a Victorian-era photograph, and he had an eerie, otherworldly glow about him. Frozen in fear, Sarah managed to stammer, "Who are you?" The boy replied in a calm, melodic voice, "I'm Oliver, your little brother." Confusion and terror gripped Sarah. She had never had a sibling. As she tried to rationalize the situation, thinking it must be a vivid dream, the boy, Oliver, began to tell her stories of their parents, of events that occurred before Sarah was born, events she had never been told about. His knowledge of her family was both intimate and impossible. In the morning, Sarah convinced herself it had been a nightmare. However, as she joined her parents for breakfast, she casually mentioned Oliver. To her horror, her mother's face turned ghostly pale, while her father dropped his coffee mug, shattering it on the floor. After a moment of heavy silence, her mother began to cry, and her father, with a voice trembling with emotion, revealed the family secret. Sarah had indeed had a younger brother, Oliver, who had died as a child, years before Sarah was born. They had never spoken of him, wishing to spare Sarah the pain of their loss. That night, and every night thereafter, Oliver appeared to Sarah. Each encounter filled her with an inexplicable mix of dread and sorrow. Oliver never aged, always appearing as the young boy he was when he died. He spoke of loneliness, of watching over the family, waiting for someone to remember him. Sarah's life became a waking nightmare. She was torn between fear of the supernatural and a deep sadness for the brother she never knew. Her parents, once reluctant to acknowledge Oliver's existence, began to believe her, their own encounters with inexplicable occurrences in the house lending credence to her claims. Seeking answers, Sarah and her parents consulted with mediums, psychics, and paranormal experts. Each one left their home more bewildered and terrified than the last, unable to provide a solution or explanation. The story reaches its harrowing climax one stormy night when Sarah awoke to find Oliver not at the edge of her bed, but sitting at her window, looking out into the thunderous night. He turned to her and whispered, "It's time for me to go, but I need you to come with me." As he extended his hand, a bolt of lightning illuminated the room, casting a skeletal shadow of Oliver against the wall. Sarah, in a trance-like state, found herself drawn to his outstretched hand. Just as their fingers were about to touch, her mother burst into the room, screaming for her to stop. The air was charged with a strange energy, and the house shook as if in the grip of an earthquake. Her mother grabbed Sarah, pulling her away from Oliver, who let out a wail of despair, so haunting that it echoed through the house long after he vanished. In the aftermath, the house returned to normal, and Oliver never appeared again. The Green family was left with a deep sense of loss and an unshakable feeling of having been touched by something beyond the world they understood. The story ends with the chilling realization that some bonds reach beyond the veil of death, and some secrets are too heavy to keep.